Ladies and gentlemen, why would a global power take a side in a local conflict? Why would a country that speaks of peace, cooperation, and democracy choose one nation over another when both deserve a fair hearing? It's not always about who's right. Often it's about what's useful. In global politics, backing a country isn't always about shared values. It's mostly about national interests. If you study history, you'll see that countries rarely act out of loyalty. They act based on long-term strategy. The United States doesn't start its day asking, how can we help Pakistan or how can we ignore India? No, it asks, how do we keep our control in a region where things are changing fast? Influence is a kind of power, and that power grows where there is uncertainty, opportunity, and advantage. Pakistan, for years, has held a unique place on the global map. It borders China, Iran, Afghanistan, and India. It's not just a nation, it's a key position. In long-term politics, you don't always pick your strongest friends. You choose the ones that offer the most strategic advantage. But here's the hard truth. When a country gets support, it doesn't always mean it's being trusted or agreed with. Often it just means the supporting country wants access to land, to decisions, to regional power. It's not about love or loyalty. It's about influence. India, meanwhile, is rising fast economically, diplomatically, and in technology. It's becoming more independent. That kind of self-reliance makes it harder for others to shape or control it. And when a nation becomes self-sufficient, powerful countries don't rush to support it because it no longer fits easily into their plans. So the real question isn't why America supports Pakistan instead of India. The real question is, why do any countries support others at all? The answer is simple: interest. Until the world starts choosing leaders based on shared goals instead of fear or convenience, these patterns will continue. But that doesn't mean we have to accept them blindly. It means we should understand them so we can do better. Because true leadership that makes a difference, isn't about taking sides. It's about setting the right example. Maybe that's what the world truly needs right now. When America makes decisions on the world stage, it's not being emotional, it's being tactical. Support is not a gift of friendship, it's a move that serves a clear purpose. When a country like Pakistan is repeatedly involved in American foreign plans, it's not because both nations believe in the same things. It's because Pakistan sits in a region where so much happens. It borders Afghanistan, a place where America has invested years. It's next to Iran, a country America often struggles with. It's near China, America's biggest rival, and next to India, a growing force that doesn't always follow the US line. This location makes Pakistan a country America can't ignore. Now think about India. What does it offer the US in terms of control? Not much. India is becoming more independent and confident each year. It's not a country that depends on others anymore. It's a strong power. And strong, self-standing nations are harder to guide in global strategy. In such a game, predictable partners are more valuable. So when America gives support to Pakistan, it's less about friendship and more about entry into land routes, intelligence, and military presence. It's all about being near important regions. It's not personal, it's practical. That's how world politics really works. And if we confuse that with loyalty, we fail to see how power truly operates. Countries don't support others because they care. They support others because it helps them move forward. Until we realize this, we'll keep being surprised by who gets support and who doesn't. When a powerful country offers help, we often assume it's because there's political or moral agreement, but that's rarely the case. What we often see as support is really just strategy in action. It's about staying close, not standing together. Agreement isn't necessary, access is. America doesn't need Pakistan to share its values. It needs air paths open, cooperation in difficult zones, and presence near China's western side. It needs to stay involved in South Asia where things keep changing. Influence isn't based on shared ideas, it's based on timely opportunities. During the Cold War, America backed several governments that had very different beliefs because those governments offered something important: control over land, skies, or rivals. Pakistan has played that part for many years. It hasn't sold itself as a partner in ideals, but as a key holder to powerful regions. That's why the help it receives changes often. It depends on what America wants at the time. Such support is flexible. It comes and goes. It's not about long-term belief, it's about short-term value. True alignment would need trust, it would need long-term goals and equal respect. But support based on access doesn't require any of that. It's cold and planned, it's calculated, not emotional, and if the usefulness fades, so does the support. That's the harsh reality. In world affairs, help is not always a compliment. Many times it's just a tool. Countries that understand this don't go around seeking approval. They build their own strength and influence. Because real power doesn't beg to be accepted, it builds value that others simply can't ignore. India doesn't wait for support, it makes its own way. Through the economy, diplomacy, and military force, and this self-direction is the very reason why it's treated differently. Countries that can survive on their own don't get the same kind of strategic support. The stronger a nation becomes, the less it needs outside approval. And strangely, the less support it receives from major powers like the US. Support in the world of power politics is rarely given to the mighty. It's given to those who can still be influenced or used. India is going in the opposite direction. It's building the ability to decide for itself, create its own partnerships, and guard its own interests. That sort of freedom can make other global powers uneasy. Not because India is dangerous, but because it can't be directed. When you stop needing someone, you become less important to their plans, and that's the core of it. Nations don't offer help out of admiration. They do it to meet their own goals. India, with its growing strength, no longer fits into someone else's story. It's writing its own. That's a brave step, but it comes at a cost. You get fewer benefits, less applause, and not much outside backing. But we often forget something important. Real strength doesn't lie in being helped, it lies in being respected. And respect doesn't come from saying yes, it comes from being clear, firm, and reliable. India's rise might not bring it the same attention as a more flexible country like Pakistan, but it earns something much more valuable: the right to lead in its own way. We tend to look at how countries deal with each other the same way we look at human friendships. We think they're built on trust, loyalty, or shared values, but that's not how international relations work. Countries act based on benefits, not emotions. They don't pick sides because one is more fair or moral. They pick based on what strengthens their global position. What helps today might not help tomorrow. That's why alliances shift, priorities change. What once seems useful may no longer be. That's why there are no permanent friends or enemies in world politics. The only constant is self-interest. That's why it sometimes feels confusing. Today, Pakistan may offer more room to maneuver. Tomorrow, it might not. India may not be at the center of attention, not because it lacks value, but because it isn't easy to shape or guide. And that teaches us something deep, not just for nations, but for people, too. But for leaders, businesses, and individuals, when choices are made only for gain, loyalty becomes a side effect, not a true value. So instead of asking who deserves our support, we should ask what each player brings to the table at the time. Because nations will always lean toward practicality, toward what helps them win the next deal, lock down the next route, or outsmart the next competitor. That way of thinking helps us make sense of the world, not by judging it, but by viewing it wisely. It reminds us that power isn't based on who's the most ethical, it's based on who's best placed to make an impact. Many of us like to think that when one country backs another, it's about loyalty. It feels comforting to imagine that nations stand together out of respect or shared beliefs. But the truth is, most international support isn't about friendship, it's about function. It's not built on long-term trust, but on immediate usefulness. And when that usefulness disappears, so does the support. Pakistan has often portrayed itself as essential, not because of its military or economic strength, but because of its location. It sits next to Afghanistan, is close to China, and it's deeply involved in the politics of terrorism, conflict, and international security. That makes it significant. And in global politics, being relevant gives you leverage. It gives stronger countries like the United States a reason to stay connected to Pakistan, even if there's mistrust or disagreement on values. But that kind of relationship is based on conditions. It's temporary. It stays alive only as long as Pakistan continues to play a role in someone else's strategy. The same can be said about any country that becomes useful to someone else's agenda. And this is where the danger lies. When a nation confuses being helpful with being truly valued, it sets itself up for a letdown. Because that kind of support can vanish the moment a more suitable alternative shows up. This isn't just something for governments to think about, it's a message for anyone who depends too much on outside approval. If your worth is measured only by what you can do for others, your place is always unstable. But if your worth is rooted in your principles, in your values, in your steadiness and clarity, then that kind of strength doesn't fade away. Countries and people both must understand the difference between being needed and being respected. Because not all support is a compliment. Sometimes it simply means you fit into someone else's plan. In a world that constantly urges us to pick sides, real leadership follows another route. It's simple to support one country against another, to draw dividing lines and to declare your loyalty, but that's not leadership. That's just politics. Leadership isn't about responding to pressure, it's about stepping above it, standing for something deeper than just winning. Countries that lead don't chase influence, they live with honesty. They don't twist relationships to win short-term advantages, they build trust that survives across decades. And the most influential countries aren't the ones with the biggest weapons or the loudest voices, they're the ones others turn to when things get confusing, not because they control, but because they guide. Choosing a side is easy. Weak leaders do it when they're unsure of what they believe in. But setting an example, that takes strength. That takes vision. When a nation picks peace instead of provocation, chooses talks over separation, and values principles over short-term benefits, it sends a strong message. It says we aren't here to dominate, we are here to lead. India and Pakistan both deserve a future of peace. This whole region deserves progress. The world needs leaders who ask not who can we use, but rather what can we create together. That kind of leadership can't be bought. Power can be borrowed, but true leadership must be earned. The world isn't short on followers, it's in desperate need of role models. The real question isn't who America supports. The deeper question is, who is showing the world what leadership should truly look like?